Ting-Chi Kuo is reporting that in quarter 2 of 2018, we're going to get a updated MacBook Air. But what? Okay, let's just play with that idea. I have several questions about this. We have not really seen a refresh to the MacBook Air since 2014-15 era, and that was really just a CPU bump. In terms of design, I think it's one of the only devices Apple sells that does not have a Retina display. On top of that, not only does it have noticeable bezels, it has aluminum bezels. Does not have USB-C, still sporting that old MagSafe and typical USB-A connection, and they even discontinued the 11.5-inch version, so getting rumors like this, I have to stop and say, wait, what are we talking about here? So that's usually when I dive deeper into the article and read that, okay, well, all he's really saying is that we're expected to get a new budget MacBook whose primary purpose is having a cheaper price tag. This is definitely a smarter move if I look at it in just that regard. A lot of people are unhappy with Apple's new MacBook lineup right now because it's just USB-C, they don't want to pay extra for the Touch Bar, and overall the whole MacBook lineup is pretty pricey given that the 12-inch MacBook and standard configuration MacBook Pro price-wise are not that different. I could see Apple definitely investigating the idea of building more budget-friendly laptops so that we can get macOS into the hands of more people so that more people can enjoy productivity products that aren't necessarily iPads. That way you're still paying more than you would for that of a typical iPad Pro, like a cheap one, but you're not having to pay $2,000 to get something like the 15-inch MacBook. Whether or not that means it'll be the MacBook Air, I'm not really sure. Personally, what I think is going to happen is they're going to try to minimize the price of the 12-inch MacBook in every way they can. Likely keeping the design the way it is, but I've been theorizing this for a while. Wouldn't it be great if Apple started building their own CPUs to go inside their own MacBooks? This would, of course, take lots of operating system switches and architecture changes. I'm aware of that. I'm just saying it's not impossible for them to switch. If that is possible, it means that perhaps they can get some really good performance while also keeping prices down. I always thought the naming scheme of the MacBook lineup was already pretty confusing because we have MacBook Air, but that's actually heavier now than the 12-inch standard MacBook. I always thought the 12-inch should have been called the Air, and I've been saying, as you guys know, that the MacBook Air should have been discontinued a long time ago. It does not fit in with the current lineup. I think Apple prefers people to buy the 12-inch MacBook, but I think the one purpose the MacBook Air serves in today's Apple stores is saying that MacBooks start at a lower price, even though they really don't want you to buy that model. In terms of specs, though, with how MacBook Airs are right now, they're not horrible. It's just there's so many other options out there that can give you much better displays. An actual solid-state trackpad. That's something I've gotten so used to now, and yet Apple's still selling MacBook Airs where the trackpad actually literally clicks. Way back when, I actually reviewed one and decided, it's not a bad laptop. In fact, it kind of reminds me of the 12-inch MacBook today because a lot of people don't like that. They criticize it for lacking ports. But we had very similar criticisms back when that MacBook Air was first introduced. People complaining that it didn't have that many ports. It did not have a CD drive. Apple was selling these $100 super drives to go alongside it. And that, I would argue, is the same as people arguing that you need dongles now to have USB-C MacBooks. It's Apple getting ahead of the curve and saying, no, this is what the new standard is, and people being not ready for that, but once they are accustomed to it, they realize that that was what they wanted all along. Now, people defend the MacBook Air all the time. So when I hear that Apple's working on an updated version of it, I think at best, this is either going to be a CPU bump, a price reduction, or they're going to introduce a next generation 12-inch MacBook that can do either the CPU swap like I suggested, or perhaps removing that headphone jack because they realize that it's a budget laptop. Audio professionals are not buying this. If you're buying a 12-inch MacBook, you'd probably be good with AirPods anyway. Then let's just have two USB-C ports on either side so you can charge it from either side. Maybe bump up the specs so that one of them at least is Thunderbolt 3 because right now no 12-inch MacBook has Thunderbolt 3. They make an updated version of the 12-inch MacBook. They keep it at its current price point, and then the old generation 12-inch MacBook, the one that keeps the headphone jack, the one that everyone's bought already, that can get a massive price reduction, and then we discontinue the current MacBook Air. That way we don't have this sore thumb sticking out of aluminum bezels, no Retina display, physical clicking trackpad, old MagSafe technology, old USB ports. It's just completely going against everything that Apple's been trying to set up recently with the new ecosystem of products and having one port that can do everything. Like I said, when I used my MacBook Air, I didn't think it was bad. It was I don't think anyone should buy that directly from Apple. You should get a refurbished one or a used one via Facebook yard sale or via certified refurbished, and you could get a probably good deal on one not from Apple, and it'll work out just fine. I don't see the point in you spending $1,000 on a 2014, 2013 design out here in 2018. That just doesn't make sense. If Apple is to do something very bizarre, like actually refresh the MacBook Air, consider that separate from the 12-inch MacBook, I'd be very curious to see how they keep the prices low. What they have to compromise on, whether there will be USB-C adoption, or maybe because it's budget and you want to appeal to maybe more college students, you provide lots of different colors, starting at around $800, because Apple would profit because you wouldn't be buying an iPad, which is cheaper, for those people who prefer laptops and they want a keyboard, but they don't really like the iPad smart keyboard route. They want macOS. If that's the case, maybe this would be a great way to flagship a good macOS update we'll be getting this summer. Not that this is a leak or a rumor or anything, but I recently viewed a concept article of someone who designed a macOS 11 style, where they really changed the UI and the look of macOS to match that more of an iPhone. And I really, really love it. I don't think that'll happen, but I think it's worth a check out if you haven't looked at it. Some really, really intuitive designs on how to make macOS look even more modern than it already does, without, of course, going, full Windows 8 and making everything look like a touchscreen. So those are my recapping thoughts on this MacBook Air reboot idea. I thought I should make a response on this because everyone just kept asking me about it anyway, so that's it. I don't necessarily think it's gonna keep around MagSafe for the old USB ports, or this is just taking the old design, maybe putting a new CPU in it, or just giving it a price reduction. I don't think they're going to keep aluminum bezels or the non-retina display. It just feels weird that they still have that around today. Do you think they could do that? Do you disagree? Let me know all that good stuff in the comments below. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.